Don't look now, but Deshaun's Bruins, they're hot.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for your support. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel because you get the season started with a big return on FanDuel. New customers, right now you place a $5 bet, you win, you'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Check out FanDuel.com to get started. Where we get started, our usual Monday episode pushed to Tuesday because of UCLA men's and women's basketball starting the season on Monday. We're talking UCLA football, once again recapping, grading out the weekend for the Bruins, who took on a Nebraska team, favored, the second straight UCLA road game where they were underdogs by one score, and they came out and won the game by a one-score margin. Games where UCLA should have beaten Rutgers by 2 scores, they should have beaten Nebraska by 2 scores, and yet here the Bruins are sitting pretty 3-5, 2-4 in Big Ten play. And we'll go over what that means with the rest of the Big Ten and the Big Ten standings. But let's take a look at UCLA at their own right. A team that didn't know how to run the football. A team that had struggled to make big plays defensively, get pressure on the quarterback, had been searching for an offensive identity under Eric Bieniemy and with Ethan Garbers at quarterback, with many claiming for both of their jobs, one being benched, the other one being sacked. And yet here we are, with UCLA trending in the right direction with some positive signs. Now, it wasn't the best offensive showing. That goes to the Rutgers game. It was a strong defensive performance, even though Nebraska came back, scored a touchdown. The Bruins looked sloppy defensively with a couple of penalties that were questionable when it came to the unsportsmanlike variety, and it drew a scorn response, the ire of Deshaun Foster when you do not respect his discipline of his 3 pillars, the first of his 3 pillars, discipline, respect, and enthusiasm. And yet the Bruins came out with the dub, 27-20 over Nebraska. Nebraska, who is cursed in one-score games, cursed when it comes to having a chance in November to get a bowl game eligibility, get bowl game berth. And I don't know what it is, man, but Dylan Raiola, the Bruins got to him, and the UCLA Bruins survived Heinrich Harburg's 7 passes and picked him off once. So let's start with the offense. UCLA was figuring things out offensively. It was not as good as Rutgers, where they went up and down the field seemingly as they wanted, but pretty close to it. Ethan Garbers, 219 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, a QBR of 94.5, completed 17 of 25 passes. UCLA was looking fine, all right? You got Ethan Garbers, who the last 2 weeks has busted off a 50-plus yard run, which has significantly helped the UCLA run game, which was in dire need of any help. Dire need. The UCLA Bruins have one of the worst rushing attacks I have seen, and they've got capable running backs. They have change of pace running backs. They've got a transfer back in Jalen Berger who can do just fine as a change of pace guy, and he doesn't have a rushing touchdown this year. But UCLA, with Garbers healthy, with him maybe giving the go-ahead or thinking in his mind, I can tuck this and run and make big plays. He has made a big play on the ground each of the last 2 weeks, and that's led UCLA to have a rushing number, a total, that has surpassed 100 yards rushing the last 2 weeks. Now, the Bruins took a couple of knees, so they lost that 100-yard rushing game against Rutgers. But against Nebraska, they scored, totaled up nearly 99 yards in the first half, close to 100, maybe not surpassed that, and ended up with 139 yards. Now, the Bruins can't run the football when it's 3rd and 1, the game's on the line. Everybody can stack the box. And Nebraska, knowing what the rest of the country knows, what the rest of the Big Ten knows, you stack the box 3rd and 1. The Bruins, unlikely to get it. It wasn't Rutgers where UCLA went for it 4th and 1 at their own 20 and knew they could run on their own will because Rutgers can't stop the run. Nebraska, a little more physical, but that made it all the more impressive with what Eric Bieniemy's designed. Ethan Garbers' newfound DTR-like running ability. Heck, even throw it out to Brett Hundley with his athleticism, which Even Chip Kelly said Garbers he's athletic. He can run 20 miles per hour when he was the head coach of UCLA. It's just Garbers is not designed to go in the Eric Bieniemy offense and make a 50-yard run happen, but he has. And when that does, it opens up maybe a chance for a QB keeper in the future, opens up the chance to extend drives. And where UCLA thrived in this game in Nebraska was the early third down conversions on the opening drive just to get a field goal, eat 6-7 minutes, it felt like, in a game where UCLA is not favored. But when you're going 6 of 13 on third down, doing a lot better, right? Because they converted a lot more third downs in the first half, sustained drives, got on the board first, scored that second touchdown to go up 10-0. Very well could have been up 20-0. But that's more on the defensive side of things. So the Bruins improving when it comes to protecting the quarterback a little bit. Nebraska in this game, 2 sacks. If UCLA out-sacks the opposition, and unless they're both having like a ridiculous amount of sacks in a defensive slugfest, UCLA is, 1, playing better defensively, and 2, protecting Ethan Garbers a lot better. All right? Nebraska, 2 sacks, 4 tackles for loss. For the UCLA defense, that's a field day. For Nebraska, going against the UCLA offensive line that has been plagued with protection issues, keeping the run game sustained with positive runs, that was good. Garbers had nearly a 10-yard per rush average. TJ Harden with one of his best, 4.2 yards per carry in 11 carries for 46 yards with a long of 18. I mean, the Bruins are figuring it out. In a game where J. Michael Sturdivant knocked out early with 2 targets, 2 catches for 19 yards, still no Rico Flores, it was the Quasi Gilmer show once again. When he gets the opportunity, he seems to make a big play, big catch, a big 40-yard bomb that led to a UCLA touchdown early in the third quarter that put the Bruins up 27-7. It was a sight for sore eyes. The Bruins doing what they needed to do, finding Berger for a touchdown reception. The concepts of the screen plays, Eric Bieniemy is dialing them up at the right time against pressure near the red zone, and the Bruins are looking a lot better when they get to the red zone. They are scoring. They are converting not just into 3 points, but now into 7 points. There's been a couple of weeks against Rutgers and now against Nebraska where the Bruins have had those late designed screen passes going left, going right in the differing weeks, and they've led to touchdown throws for Ethan Garbers. In the first couple of weeks, we were lucky if UCLA got to the 25, got to the 20, got to the 15, and maybe hit pay dirt. Now the Bruins are doing that with more regularity, and that's turning into a team that could score 20 points. Prior to the Rutgers game, UCLA hadn't hit 20 points in a game, or more than 20 points. Now the Bruins have put up 27 points, 20 from the offense, and they put up 35 against Rutgers, who was a team that was hurting, and the Bruins made them pay. But on the road against Nebraska, that's even more impressive for a Cornhusker team that is fading down the stretch like they've done the last couple of years, unfortunately. And the Bruins, with a schedule that is favorable, Deshaun Foster, with all the doubts, who's on the hot seat now, right? It looked like, hey, every UCLA fan wanted Deshaun Foster gone after the 1-5 start. The 5 straight losses looked like they weren't going to do anything heading into the Rutgers game after a horrid, brutal last-second loss to Minnesota. And the one thing that Minnesota game is haunting UCLA is potentially a bowl berth, which is still very much at play for the Bruins if their defense can hold up over the next 3 to 4 weeks. And you look at what Deshaun Foster's done, and then you ask about the quarterback who UCLA fans were asking to bench, Ethan Garbers. And now you look at Lincoln Riley, who can't keep a lead to save his life, who has to bench his quarterback, Miller Boss, according to sources, heading to that game against Nebraska in a couple weeks. And my, oh my, has everything flipped. And now UCLA might have a much better shot of winning those 2 home games, 3 home games down the stretch against Iowa, very tough game. Still winnable for UCLA. Rivalry game against USC. Anything's on the table there. And now the Bruins will probably be favored against Fresno State, where they might not have been if they were 1-7. It's on the table, folks. It is on the table. Let's talk about what's coming up next defensively and how they played this game for the Bruins against Nebraska. All right, Bruin fans, it's time to recognize the Roy Player of the Week because so far they've pulled over $20,000 to support players on Roy. Those micro deposits can lead to massive change, and with the Roy app, you can directly support the athletes you love, ensuring all the funds go directly to the specific player you choose. Unlike collectives, you know exactly where your support is going, and you can receive exclusive content, personal videos, and updates as well. And it's risk-free. If the athlete transfers or doesn't deliver the content, you get your money back. This week, I'm supporting Kane Medrano. All right, Kane Medrano with the pick six. Yes, Schlesinger had an overall good day, but it's Kane Medrano with the pick six, leaping over the quarterback, getting into the end zone, setting the Bruins up for second half success. I just pitched in $100, and I'd love for you to join me. Even $10 makes a difference. Let's show Kane Medrano the love and keep him connected to UCLA. Remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow. Your support sets the team up for success. Don't miss out on the Roy's exciting giveaways. You can win 2 tickets to a game in November. Download Roy, create an account, enter the referral code Locked On, and you're entered. If you're already on, any contribution to an athlete's campaign gets you entered automatically. No purchase necessary, void or prohibited. Download Roy now. Join the NIL game. No subscriptions, no fees. Roy, return on you. For more info, Roy, support the players, change the game. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet on FanDuel.com. Hey, check out the UCLA Bruins, because this year in the first 8 games, UCLA 5-3 against the spread, including last couple of games, winning out as straight-up underdogs. Maybe you want to check out that action with the Bruins taking on Iowa this week here on FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. You make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Cruising on to the second segment of Locked On UCLA, and I know I forgot to mention in that first segment what my grade was for the UCLA offense. We'll give it a B for that performance. Not a B minus, B plus. I think so. I would have liked more consistency in the second half, despite some poor field position. Then UCLA also didn't go for it a couple of times, and UCLA's rushing attack is still not good enough to kill clock and keep teams out of it when they have a bigger lead. UCLA a B performance because they still did a lot. Garbers looking much better. Eric Bieniemy, UCLA, they get up big against Nebraska, had halftime lead, extended it with a big bomb to Quasi Gilmer. Still doing this without some of their best receiving threats available for the majority of these games. All right, the last 2 games UCLA offensively has put up big totals for their perspective, with only 2 catches from J. Michael Sturdivant and Rico Flores Jr. And that was 2 from J. Michael Sturdivant in the game against Nebraska before he got knocked out with a big hit and a face mask, which is 2 targets, right? He got beat up and the Bruins only got 2, and the Bruins spread out the love to Gilmer, Monteval, Mokiao Atamalala, who's back from injury, Logan Loya, who makes some timely catches on a 3rd and short, right? It's 3rd and Loya, right? To get a first down, go to Loya, boom, get it there. Offense, a B performance, which is much better than what it was in the opening weeks of the season. Defensively, Ikaika Malloy exploited a true freshman. I know Nebraska fans hate their offensive coordinator even more than Eric Bieniemy, it seems like at this point. But I think this has a lot to say about Ikaika Malloy more than it says about Nebraska. This is a Nebraska team that had true freshman quarterback. I think preseason, I had this inkling that UCLA was going to be able to compete in this game in Lincoln, despite a crowd that sells out, that gets enthusiastic to start. But with a true freshman quarterback, I thought the Bruins would come in and would be competitive because you'd see some mistakes from Raiola. He threw 1 pick, led to a UCLA score, went 14 for 27, 177 yards. Probably threw a couple more ducks up there. There was one, I think, that set up the first touchdown right after the unsportsmanlike penalty. There was one throw in the first half where Raiola chucked it up there, and the Bruins whiffed on the pick. It was KJ Wallace who was right underneath it, turned, backpedaled when he should have ran to the spot, swiveled his hips, and instead backpedaled and allowed a Nebraska receiver to go up and make a play, I think, for a big first down. When it should have been picked, it was a horrible throw. And UCLA was in perfect position. It looked like a staple of UCLA defense the first 5, 6, 7 weeks of the season, where they'd be in position and just not make the play. Now, UCLA, with the rising story, the rising star that is Carson Schlesinger, 13 tackles. He had a sack, a tackle for loss with a sack, 2 passes defended. He is a rising star in the Big Ten and might be earning some money on Sundays with this performance this season. K. Medrano, big play, said I think in the postgame he had some receiver skills he wanted to utilize, leapt over, I think it was a diving Raiola on his pick six, set the tone for the beginning of the second half. Because Nebraska, they take that first drive in the second half for a touchdown. They have the lead. But the Bruins came out, stamped their approval, said, hey, you're not doing anything. Pick six, stop them again, get the big play to Gilmer, and UCLA was up 20. And when Nebraska was driving, the Bruins really only shot themselves in the foot with those 3 unsportsmanlike penalties that set up all 3 touchdown drives for Nebraska in this game. Nebraska had a 3-and-out twice to start the game, and the Bruins unsportsmanlike. Another one where they had a big hit on Raiola. That was, I think, going to be 4th and goal. Unsportsmanlike. Eventually led to another Nebraska touchdown drive. 4 sacks in this game, 7 tackles for loss. And all the talk is how UCLA can't get a pass rush. That's how I've been feeling. And now they found ways to take down Nebraska on some broken plays. It was a lot of different players, too. It was Jalen Davies with a half sack, Jalen Woods with a sack, Jay Tuia, the big boy up the middle, getting a sack. Even Sharif Say with half a sack. It's all the pressure, and that's not all on the defensive line. You're getting some from the secondary, you're getting a half a sack from the secondary. You're getting a full sack from the linebacker, Schlesinger. With Femi Oladejo, who had been making some plays, he had a tackle for loss. But you're seeing improvement on this D-line by moving Oladejo into a new spot in a new role where he's growing. This is still a veteran group. And now that they're not facing teams, or Kaika Malloy is timing his blitz package better against quarterbacks that aren't Heisman runners, or Garrett Nussmeier, who can step around and has a super big offensive lineman in front of him to throw dimes across the field, the Bruins are looking improved defensively. Now, they still struggle. Nebraska in this game still went better than 50% from third down. It was the fact that the Huskers only went 1 for 3 on fourth down, had 72 plays, so nearly 20 more than UCLA had offensively, only averaged 4.5 yards per play, only averaged 3 yards per rush, and when UCLA needed to force the turnovers, pick six. When UCLA was holding on for dear life, they got a good bounce. After missing a couple of picks, 1 or 2 early, the Bruins had the fortunate bounce. It was a great breakup early and a great continuation, even better sticking with the play by Kalen Moore to dive on the floor and get what was the game-ending interception. Because I know all of us as UCLA fans, all of us thinking they are going to go down, they were going to go down, score, or maybe go for 2 or get this to overtime, and we'd be ridiculed forever for UCLA having a 20-point lead with them, I think, one of the Big Ten Network putting up that graphic. Oh, the biggest comebacks in Nebraska history. This would be up there at number 2. No, UCLA, they did this against Rutgers too. They left them in the game, which is why it's tough to bet on UCLA to go on a run and make themselves bowl eligible. But with the improved play, with UCLA, I think maybe for the first time all season, playing close to 4 quarters of football. You could argue that happened at Rutgers. I'd say they played more complementary football as a team with no turnovers, solid special teams, plays being made defensively into the fourth quarter. This was probably the most complete effort by a UCLA team this season. The defense, B+ to A- performance, and probably could even be a lot better than that. But I'll say B+ to A- because I still think there could be even another level unlocked by the UCLA defense that does not allow a team to stay in it. Because UCLA had 9 penalties for 62 yards. 3 penalties that accounted for 45 yards kept Nebraska drives alive. So I'm going to lean B+ because UCLA's sheer lack of discipline almost cost themselves this game where they should have won by 2 to 3 scores. Nebraska was good enough to keep it closer, but how the game was played for the majority of it, it shouldn't have been a 1-score game. So I'm going to lean B+ with A- for the highlights, B+ for the lack of discipline that kept the Nebraska in this game. And the Bruins made the play, right? You go out there, you strap it up, make the play, end the game. So the most complete performance I think UCLA's played this entire season, and I think there's still another level to get unlocked. That's what I think, which is why I'm excited to go around the Big Ten, talk about Big Ten football, and where UCLA sits in the standings and what that means for bowl eligibility. Next on Locked On UCLA. Zbiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking, and here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just to remember, make Zbiotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. This is how you use it. Step 1, you drink the pre-alcohol. For best results, make pre-alcohol the first drink of the night. Number 2, you drink responsibly. Pace yourself. Be smart. Hydrate. Get a good night's sleep. 3, enjoy tomorrow because you'll wake up refreshed and you're ready to take on the day. Visit and go to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On College at checkout. Zbiotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied with any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at checkout for 15% off. Once again, zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege. Cruising on into this final segment of Locked On UCLA, we're talking around the Big Ten. And you know what that means? We get to make fun of SC for choking another late lead, this time at Washington. And that's going to mean a lot for UCLA in a couple weeks here for Locked On UCLA. So what happened in a week of Locked On in the Big Ten? 1, the same old, Ohio State, Penn State. Close, low scoring, yada, yada, whether it's Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, when Michigan's been good under Jim Harbaugh in recent years. Penn State just can't come through. It's annoying. And if I'm not busy and I'm on the Locked On Big Ten squad show this week, I'll just throw some shade. We don't want to talk about it because it happens again, whether it's Drew Aller, some quarterback that Penn State's supposed to have the best. It's always this other, like a Penn State, Iowa. This is the quarterback that's going to do it. And they just never do it. All right. Whether it's the Kirk Ferentz-led offense that hasn't done much, although they switched quarterbacks and Iowa's look better. We'll talk about that in coming episodes for Iowa football heading into UCLA. Or Penn State with the big game, season on the line. The one time they finally got that win, I think 6-7 years ago. They still lost the big game at the end of the year. Penn State did. Frustrating. I'm tired of talking about Penn State being close. Probably going to make the playoff. They're good. They're beatable. They're just... Why can't they beat Ohio State or something? And I know there's a point made up on the Big Ten squad. Like, what if they go to the playoff and win against an Ohio State or a big-name Big Ten school or make it deeper in the playoff or surprisingly go on a run to the national championship game? Well, then I think James Franklin will have pressure relieved off his shoulders. But right now, it's just getting ridiculous. 2, yet Oregon dismantle Michigan. I think it was all expected after a 7-7 first quarter. Dylan Gabriel threw for nearly 300 yards. A very physical Oregon front, which many thought would translate immediately to Big Ten success after the first 2 weeks of failing against Boise State, against Idaho. Oregon has gone in, and they just destroyed Michigan, 21 on the road in the Big House. I would have liked to see this game with Jim Harbaugh at the helm, and if they actually had a quarterback. But with Michigan struggling at the quarterback position, there's no way they could have kept up scoring-wise with the Oregon Ducks. That's just, unfortunately. I don't want to toot Spencer's horn, but, man, Oregon's good. It's ridiculous. Indiana, a team that was down 10-0 after the first quarter. You're wondering after the thumb surgery or procedure that Curtis Rourke had. And then all of a sudden, I was like, come on. I don't want Michigan State to go beat Indiana. Let's make UCLA's schedule look even tougher. Indiana blitzed them with 47 straight points to end the game, including 21 in the second quarter to give themselves not just a 1-score lead, but a 2-score lead heading into the third. And Curtis Rourke, 4 touchdowns, looking like the big man on campus. And Iowa's 9-0. And do I dare say on the Big Ten squad, if I'm on that episode, do I pick Indiana against Ohio State in Columbus? That's a huge game. And the real question is, does Indiana get to the college football playoff with one loss if they lose that game in Columbus. We'll find out. Then Minnesota takes down a ranked Illinois team. Minnesota gets to a bowl. They get bowl eligible with 6 wins this time, unlike last year. PJ Fleck and the Golden Gophers came into UCLA, and at this moment, looks like they may have been robbing UCLA not just of a morale victory that would have ended a 4-game skid at the time, potential for a bowl bid, because UCLA would love to have that Minnesota game back. I think PJ Fleck said they were the best 2-3 team in the country. Well, they haven't lost since. I thought that was the most ridiculous quote I've ever heard. Maybe that's the smartest thing he's ever said, and the most true statement he said about his team. Man, how close UCLA came to beat Minnesota. In this game, Darius Taylor ran for 130 yards against Illinois. UCLA was physical. The rush defense, the running defense, has been pretty good against the run. They didn't let Taylor run all over them. It's just heartbreaking the Bruins couldn't have come out better to end that game instead of in tears, because now the Bruins would have been well on the inside track, I think, to getting to a bowl. Still within reach for UCLA, but less room for error. But Minnesota, man, that makes UCLA look better how closely they played in the Rose Bowl. Northwestern, Purdue. Purdue bidding for that first Big Ten win of the year. The joke was on the Big Ten squad was that, can UCLA get a win in Big Ten before Purdue? And most of them actually said Purdue would win first. Well, joke's on you guys, my fellow new Big Ten brethren or former Pac-12 foes. UCLA has better record than 6 to 7 teams in the Big Ten in the standings. Some of them tied with head-to-head records, but we're going to give UCLA the benefit of the doubt. UCLA is now further up the Big Ten standings, and I think they certainly won't be in last place, barring a Purdue sprint to the finish. But they lost to Northwestern 26-20. If Purdue had won this game, then UCLA would have been ahead of Northwestern, who I do think the Bruins would beat at home, on the road, or on a neutral field. Okay, so another close affair for Purdue, who's gone to overtime, I think, 2 of the last 3 weeks. They couldn't do it against Northwestern. Iowa, scary 42-point outing in this game against Wisconsin. All right, Caleb Johnson is a running back, 3 touchdowns, 135 yards. We're going to talk more about him because UCLA and an opportunity to reach a bowl in Deshaun Foster's first year hinges on UCLA stopping Caleb Johnson. All right, if they can stuff Johnson, which is, I think, it'd be a very pro-Iowa crowd, unfortunately, on a Friday night, earlier kickoff in the Southland in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl. They put up 40 points. And Iowa, they don't put up 40 points. But if UCLA can stop the run game and force whoever's playing quarterback for Iowa to throw the ball and win the game, I think UCLA will have a better shot. Now, if Iowa runs all over UCLA like they've been doing to some of these teams, Iowa just got bowl eligible. They're 6-3, 4-2 in Big Ten play. This is one of those games. If UCLA is to shut up all the Big Ten doubters, it wasn't necessarily winning against a surprisingly great Indiana team or beating an LSU team on a true road environment, beating number 1 Oregon at home, or going to Penn State and winning. It's beating the Iowas, the Rutgers, the Nebraskas. It's going down the stretch and winning these games and, hey, yeah, your bottom half of the Big Ten is crappy compared to the Pac-12, and that's why the Pac-12 was the most disrespected conference in the country. But you can only do that if they go down the stretch. And, I mean, they do play Washington, USC. So if you beat Iowa, that's 3 true Big Ten teams, 2 true Big Ten teams last decade, if you want to add Rutgers last decade plus 2. Then it's like, hey, look at us. The only team we lost to that was a laughingstock at the time was Indiana, and Indiana's a top 5 team in the country right now. Who would have thought in week 3? Who would have thought? But UCLA against Iowa is huge for Deshaun Foster's first year. Next up, Washington, USC. USC choked it again. All right, they had a lead. They had twice going to the Washington State goal line, stuffed on 4th and goal. It was 3rd down or 4th down at the Washington, 15-yard line or so late in the 4th quarter. Washington stuffed them. The one-score woes have killed the Trojans to the point where they are benching their starting quarterback. And even in the game where you look at the leaders in passing and rushing and receiving, none of those players were Washington players, but Jed Fish did just enough to make USC the ridicule of the Big Ten, which is funny because who has a better Big Ten record right now? UCLA. All right. UCLA. And these are two of the next few opponents for the Bruins heading up. And Washington has Penn State and Oregon on their schedule. Sandwiched in between there is UCLA. So the one true opportunity Washington has to get that 6th win and be bowl eligible is playing UCLA on a Friday night, November 15th in Seattle, where UCLA has to go on a run. If they beat Iowa, then they would need to win 2 of their final 3 games. Or if they lose to Iowa, they want a true chance to make a bowl. That Washington game is going to mean a lot. So Washington beating SC is huge because now they're believing for a bowl. They want to play for a bowl a year after playing for a national championship. A season after playing for a national championship could make all the difference between Jed Fish for recruiting or Deshaun Foster. That Friday night game will be significant for the Bruins with a Washington team that smells UCLA as their chance to get to a bowl game. That will be huge for Friday night college football in the Big Ten. USC, that game just looks more winnable by the week. Now, I hope that, Maeva, the UNLV transfer who came to USC to just sit behind Miller Moss for most of the year, isn't the answer they were searching for, but they're looking for answers too. And Danton Lane, he's done his best to fix the USC defense, but they haven't been clutch in the fourth quarter. And USC's offense has not gone down the field and won any of these games in the fourth quarter. They found ways to lose them offensively or defensively, which means let's take a quick look at these Big Ten standings and say, hey, UCLA, the ridicule, picked 15th in the preseason. Well, where do they sit now? Well, they sit ahead of Nebraska. They sit ahead of USC, Maryland, Rutgers, Purdue. And if you do some math, then UCLA is certainly not the 15th best team in the Big Ten. Now, there's going to be a lot of tiebreakers. There will be a lot of tied teams in certain spots, but UCLA gets the benefit of the doubt. I say the best 3-5 team in the country. And I say that with a smirk, and I say that seriously as well. The Bruins with a significant chance to erase the first half of the season narrative with a win against Iowa. You do that, that's going to shock a lot of folks in the Big Ten. And maybe across the country, the Bruins are hot. And if they win their third straight game of the year, third straight game, get their first home win of the year, man, it's scary. And watch out, which is why we need an exciting 8-clap for UCLA. All right, get your hands up, Bruins fans. 8-clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA. Fight, fight, fight. Let's go, Deshaun. Let's go, bro. Let's go, Nick. Let's go, Corey Close. Get this fall to winter season kicked off right. All right. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.